Almost every type of food and every category or subcategory of macronutrient has been demonized by various fad diets. Some promote high carb, others high fat, and others still high protein carnivorous approach. There are also diets that advocate for avoiding certain things like gluten, trans fats, fructose, milk, coffee, eggs, or alcohol.
In this video, I intend to examine the research on two types of diets to determine which is the best for weight loss: low carb or low fat diets.
The carbohydrate-insulin model underlies the anti-sugar argument. It works as follows. When you eat carbohydrate-rich foods, especially those high in easily digestible sugars, your blood glucose levels, or blood sugar, increase. In response, the pancreas produces the hormone insulin. Insulin has various effects throughout the body, but one important role is to move glucose out of the blood and into cells to be stored as glycogen or to make adenosine triphosphate, ATP, the energy currency of the body. However, there's a limit on how much glycogen the body can hold, and insulin stimulates the conversion of excess glucose into fat and inhibits the pathways that mobilize and burn fatty acids. And therefore, proponents of the carbohydrate-insulin model argue that carbohydrate-rich diets paradoxically lead to less fuel in the bloodstream as the glucose is converted to fat and stored in our adipose tissue. The body responds as if it is starving, reducing energy expenditure and increasing hunger, which promotes overconsumption.
In their view, the accumulation of fatty tissue is the cause of overeating, not the other way around. This is an interesting idea with a plausible mechanism for the etiology of obesity, outlined in numerous papers and books over the years. But despite the convincing scientific jargon, it's not true, with research emerging over the last decade showing that there basically is no difference between high fat or high sugar diets, at least in terms of weight loss or fat loss.
For example, in one study, researchers kept men who were overweight or obese in a metabolic ward, a specialized research facility designed to study human metabolism, for 8 weeks. During the first 4 weeks, participants followed a standard high-carb diet and then switched to a low-carb, high-fat diet, also known as a ketogenic diet, with the same number of calories but less than 1/10 the sugar for the following 4 weeks. The subjects steadily lost weight throughout the study, but the low-carb ketogenic diet was no different from the high-carb baseline diet in terms of promoting fat loss. In another study with inpatients, researchers fed obese women and men a baseline diet for 5 days, followed by a reduced calorie diet with 30% fewer calories than baseline, achieved by either cutting carbs or cutting fat. In this study, subjects had slightly higher energy expenditure on the low-fat diet and also lost more fat on the low-fat diet. The small and conflicting effects here on energy expenditure between studies suggest that the effects of low-carb diets on energy expenditure could be just noise.
In reality, large-scale, real-world studies examining the effects of low-fat and low-carb diets on weight loss generally find that they are equally effective or ineffective. For example, in the Diet Fits study, researchers randomly assigned 609 men and women to either a low-carb or a low-fat diet. After 12 months, both groups had lost an average of 13 pounds and 2% body fat. Resting energy expenditure decreased in both groups, as would be expected with weight loss, but there was no differences between the diets. In fact, average resting energy expenditure trended slightly lower in the low-carb group. So there's no difference between low-carb or low-fat diets for weight and fat loss. But what about other health markers?
Back in the 1960s and 70s, John Yudkin, the father and hero of the modern anti-sugar movement, pointed to data showing that obesity rates in the United States and Europe were increasing along with increased sugar consumption. However, in recent decades, sugar and metabolic disease have not been in sync. Heart disease deaths, while still high, have steadily declined in the United States since the 1960s, even as sugar consumption rose. Cancer in the US peaked around 1990, a decade before the decline in sugar consumption. The amount of sugar consumed, including high fructose corn syrup, peaked around 2000, but the prevalence of overweight, obesity, and diabetes has continued to rise even as people eat less sugar.
As obesity and metabolic disease have taken hold in the developed world, economic improvements, access to easy calories, and excess energy intake rather than any single macronutrient explain the increase in weight. Sugar is definitely not healthy. It has no vitamins, fiber, or other nutrients for starters, and sugary foods are easy to overconsume, But there is little evidence that calories from sugar, including high fructose corn syrup, are any worse or better for your weight or metabolic health than calories from fat.